This Saturday is UFC Vegas 93, Alex Perez versus Tatsuro Taira, and this is going to be my full card predictions. I know it's another Apex card, but I actually think this is an okay Apex card. Maybe it's just because we've been getting fed shit sandwiches forever. I'm looking at this card, I'm like, oh, it's not that bad. But I understand this isn't the greatest card, but we're going to go through every single fight on the card, and I'm going to give you a quick breakdown and prediction. Starting off with the first fight of the night, Nuerdanbieke versus Costa. Nuerdanbieke and Costa both coming off a TKO loss against Steve Garcia. I know MMA math doesn't work, but Nuerdanbieke had a better performance in my opinion. Hurt Steve Garcia, was beating him up a bit, and then Steve Garcia came back and finished him. Where Costa was out grappling him in the first round and then got hurt badly, I think in the second round and finished. You also have Costa, who's coming off a win over Austin Lingo in the fight before that. Austin Lingo is not good. Okay, let's be real. He's like a Family Dollar version of like Nate Landwehr. And Austin Lingo's landed some shots on the feet against Costa. And that's all I need to see. I'm going Nuerdanbieke. I'm picking him via first round KO. He has 19 wins via KO. 17 KOs in the first round. I understand he's not fighting the best opposition. You look at his recent record. Oh, he beat Derek Minner, finished him in the first round. Derek Minner went out there to throw the fight for James Krause. Fight before that, beat TJ Brown, not the greatest win either. Fight before that, Sean Soriano. So I understand he doesn't have the best wins and a little bit of a padded record at 39-11, but I think he's more explosive on the feet. I think he's a better striker. I think his grappling is okay. I don't think Costa is going to go out there and just out-grapple him and ragdoll him to the ground. He wasn't able to do that against Steve Garcia. And I think Nuerdanbieke is a little bit better grappler in my opinion. So I think Nuerdanbieke is going to go out there and be able to keep it on the feet. I think Costa is going to try to grapple. He's going to get his takedown stuffed, and he's going to eat big shots on the feet. Nuerdanbieke, very athletic, very explosive, decent power. And I just don't think Costa has what it takes to hang in there with him. So I think he gets caught in the first round, especially after that nasty damage he took against Steve Garcia. I know they both got finished against Steve Garcia, but man, the elbows that Costa took were some of the most thudding, brutal elbows I have ever seen in my entire life. And that was only 5 months ago. After a beating like that, I feel like you need at least like 6-8 months off. I'm going Nuerdanbieke. I think he's more athletic. I think he's the better striker. And I think the grappling can cancel each other out. I don't think Costa's going to be able to ragdoll him and take his back. The only place I would kind of give Costa a little bit of advantage would be we've seen Nuerdanbieke kind of fade a little bit. So maybe if Costa can get in the second and third round, really wear on him with the clinch work, maybe he can win. But I'm picking Nuerdanbieke to get him out of there in the first round via brutal KO. Moving up on the card, we have Julia Polastri versus Josephine Knutsson. Yeah, really can't wait for this one. Polastri is coming off Dana White's Contender Series. Got to win there. Just looks like garbage, but she does kind of brawl a bit. She likes to strike. She moves forward. I don't even know what to say. She was on Dana White's Contender Series twice. She lost to Jasmine Jadavicius. Josephine Knutsson's coming off a win over Marnik Man. I literally think if you put Marnik Man against any woman, any random woman off the street, I think it's a 50-50 fight. So what's there really say about that display of skill against Marnik Man, a decision win? I mean, she dominated her at least in the striking, the grappling. Before that, a win on Dana White's Contender Series where she went to decision. Look, what I'm seeing in this fight is I'm seeing Knutsson, who's just the more well-rounded mixed martial artist, where Polastri just kind of likes to strike, gritty, moves forward, will kind of go to war a little bit, which you rarely see in women's MMA fights. But I don't think she wins this fight. I think Knutsson will take her down. I think Knutsson will out-grapple her. And I think Knutsson can hang in with her just fine on the feet. But I do think Knutsson will use the grappling to take her down, control her. I'm picking Josephine Knutsson via decision. I think the striking, she'll be able to hang with her on the feet. And I don't think Polastri has the grappling to hang with Knutsson on the ground. I don't think she'll get finished or submitted or anything. They're both relatively inexperienced. Actually, Polastri has a little bit more experience. She's 12-3 versus 7-0 for Knutsson. But what I saw on Dana White's Contender Series for Polastri, that's an embarrassment that she's even in the UFC. And I know the barrier of entry has lowered significantly, but there's no way I'm picking her. I'm going Josephine Knutsson. I'm going to say like a 30-27 decision win. Out grappling her, out clinch working her. I think in the fight that she won on Dana White's Contender Series where she got that rear naked choke, she did a lot of damage on the feet, but she was even getting controlled a little bit in the clinch in that fight, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm picking Knutsson to win via 30-27 decision. Moving up on the card, we have Jeka Saragih versus Westin Wilson. Westin Wilson. Why are we still trotting him out there? Got brutalized by Jean Silva, got brutally KO'd, beat to death in his last fight. Fight before that, same thing against Joe Anderson Brito. Doesn't have a fight in the UFC. His last win was at Tough Enough, a guy who's 8-5, probably the Kentucky State Fair. Westin Wilson is like a mid-tier Kentucky State Fair fighter, in my opinion. Jeka Saragih, coming off a win over Lucas Alexander. Okay, not the craziest win ever. Before that, a loss to Ansho Jubilee, which hasn't aged quite well. But Jeka Saragih has fast striking, good power. He can be out grappled a bit, but he has really good scrambles. He was scrambling really well against Ansho Jubilee before he got finished. And like, where is Westin Wilson good? I don't know. His striking's horrible. He looks slow. He's 35 years old. Oh my God. Why are we doing this? I think Saragih is going to go out there and get a highlight reel KO against Westin Wilson. I mean, I know Westin Wilson got kind of matched up with two killers in Jean Silva and Joe Anderson Brito, but man, did he look slow. I know in a fight, anything can happen and anybody can win. But imagine a world where Westin Wilson gets a win in the UFC. I find that to be highly unlikely, especially against a guy who's really athletic and fast like Jeka Saragih. Where's he going to clip him? Jeka Saragih could feint a couple times, throw like a two-piece combination, and next thing you know, he's behind Westin Wilson, jumping on his back while they're still standing. That's how slow Westin Wilson is compared to Jeka Saragih. So I think Saragih is going to go out there, be very aggressive, hunting the finish early. I'm picking Jeka Saragih to go out there and get a first-round KO in highlight reel fashion. Westin Wilson is kind of tough, though. So this could be one of those fights where we see quite a beating. The only way I could imagine Westin Wilson winning, which I really can't even imagine it, is Jeka Saragih gassing himself out, looking for a highlight reel finish, and maybe you got Keith Peterson in there smoking a Marlboro Red, and then maybe Saragih gasses out and Westin Wilson can get a win that way. Highly doubt it. I don't think it's going to happen. I think he's outmatched. I think this will be his last fight in the UFC. He's 35 years old. It's probably time for him to find a new career after he fights Jeka Saragih. I'm going Saragih first round KO. Moving up on the card, we have Carli Judice versus Gabriel Fernandes. Honestly, watching fight footage from both of them, I don't even know. To be quite honest. I don't know. It's one of those things where you have Judice coming off of a loss on Dana White's Contender Series. And, I think I might have been mixing her up with a women's fighter earlier, Julia Polastri. Because that's who went to war. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I mixed that up a little bit, but it's besides the point. Carli Judice likes to strike. She lost on Dana White's Contender Series. She's still getting an opportunity for some reason. My guess is maybe she's stepping in on short notice. Gabriel Fernandes lost her last two fights to Teresa Bleda and Jasmine Jadavicius. She's got some good striking. She can be out-grappled. I could see a world where Judice out-grapples her. Honestly, I thought about picking Judice, even though she's 3-1. But I think Fernandes is too athletic. A little bit more experience at 8-3. Really solid, heavy kicks. Coin flip fight. Both of them super low level. But listen, it comes down to this. Can Carli Judice out-grapple her? I don't think so. I don't know, though. Gabriel Fernandes is horrible in the grappling. She gets taken down easily. But Teresa Bleda is decent. Jasmine Jadavicius is decent. So I'll say she keeps it standing against Judice. I think it'll be a close fight. I'm going to pick Fernandes via decision, maybe like a 29-28 decision. The kicks to the body, leg kicks will win her this fight. I just think she's the better overall striker. But honestly, why are we having a 3-1 Dana White's Contender Series loser fight on a UFC card, and it's not even the first fight? Maybe they'll rearrange this order, but yeah, Carli Judice, I think it was her against Ernesta Karikate. I think that was where she kind of went to war a bit. I think I was mixing that up earlier. So she is a bit of a savage. She is a bit durable, so maybe she can weather the storm of Fernandes if Fernandes gets tired, but I haven't seen enough of Judice to pick her. I'm going Fernandes via decision. Moving up on the card, we have Garrett Armfield versus Brady Hiestand. Look, I'm watching back fight tape for both these guys, and I'm watching Armfield beat up Brad Katona. I'm watching Armfield beat up to Tashomi Kazama. I'm butchering the name. Losing to David Onama, not a horrible loss. And I'm watching Brady Hiestand getting out-grappled a little bit by Bad Girl Dana. Getting out-grappled, not even having that success of grappling against Fernie Garcia. And Fernie Garcia is a straight-up scrub. He did kind of take him down at will, but there was a couple times where Garcia was kind of scrambling out of the position. Going to split decision with Ricky Turcios. I'm going Garrett Armfield. I think Brady Hiestand isn't that great. I think Garrett Armfield has good takedown defense. His striking is improving. I picked him over Brackettona. I feel like nobody was picking him over Brackettona. And I think he has overall decently fast hands. And Hiestand's striking is garbage. I mean, Dana was lighting him up on the feet in his last fight. And he's been out over a year. Yeah, I'm definitely going Garrett Armfield. I'm going to pick Garrett Armfield to win via decision. He's not much of a finisher. He does have some finishes on his record. But basically, I think this fight's going to go similar to the Brackettona fight. Hiestand will be looking for takedowns, looking for control time. The striking is god-awful. And I think Garrett Armfield's going to stuff those takedowns. If he does get taken down, he'll scramble back to his feet. I mean, Hiestand's having trouble holding down Ricky Turcios. Losing a decision to Ricky Turcios, even though it was a close fight. I think Armfield, who's stuffing the takedowns of Brackettona, beating Brackettona up on the feet. I know Brackettona isn't that good, but I think he's a little bit better than Brady Hiestand. I got to go Garrett Armfield. I'm going to pick him to win via decision. Just by stuffing the takedowns, outstriking him. I could see a world where Hiestand maybe gets around with control time, and maybe Armfield doesn't do that much damage, so you have to go to the control time, and Hiestand gets around. But I'm going to pick Garrett Armfield to win 29-28 decision. I have to pick Armfield. I don't want to say I'm high on Armfield, but for like a low-level guy, I'm actually liking his improvement. Fight to fight, I actually think he improves quite a bit. So I'm picking him in this fight. Moving up on the card, we have Nate Maness versus Jimmy Flick. I'm going Jimmy Flick with this one. I'm picking Jimmy Flick by sub. Look, I'm watching Nate Maness tape, okay? And Nate Maness, his last fight against Mateus Mendoza, I think is how you pronounce it. It's not Mendoza. Maybe it is. I don't know. But anyway, I'm watching that. He gets the TKO, but Mendoza is locking up not locking up, but he's scrambling for all these different submissions and getting in good positions. He held on to like leg locks for too long, and he inevitably got finished. And I could see Jimmy Flick doing the same thing. But I'm looking at every fight for Maness, and I understand he's a former bantamweight. He's kind of big for flyweight. I'm looking at the Tagir Ulanbekov fight, getting submitted there. I'm looking at the fight before that, getting out-grappled by Umar Nurmagomedov. I'm looking at the fight before that against Tony Gravely. He got a win, but if I'm not mistaken, he got saved by the bell, got clipped badly. Jimmy Flick, I know he beat Malcolm Gordon. He was losing early. Then he almost found a choke at the end of the first round. And he has a bunch of submission. This guy's a submission machine. He has 15 wins via submission. 15 wins out of 17 wins via submission. And guess what Nate Maness' all 3 losses are? They're all 3 losses via sub. And the way I see this fight going down is Maness will be winning on the feet a bit. And then Jimmy Flick will probably try to incorporate some grappling. And Jimmy Flick has done it before like Mendoza has, where he's kind of looking for submissions and ends up getting ground and pound. That kind of happened against Alessandro Costa for Jimmy Flick. But I think Maness is going to engage on the ground. And I think he's going to, I just imagine Maness making a mistake on the ground, ending up in a bad position and ending up getting subbed. I mean, Malcolm Gordon, the end of the first round, had a tight guillotine locked up. Jimmy Flick turned that into a Von Flue choke. And had there not been 10 seconds left, I think he would have finished it. So I'm banking on, in this fight, Maness in some way, shape, or form engaging Flick on the ground. Whether he drops Flick on the feet and then follows into the ground looking for a finish and ends up getting caught in a triangle or something along those lines, I see Maness making a mistake, and that's why I'm going to pick Jimmy Flick. I'm going to say Jimmy Flick first round triangle choke. He's going to jump into his guard, or Jimmy Flick's going to get dropped and then kind of roll for a leg lock, and there's going to be a scramble, and next thing you know, Maness is going to, I'm safe in the guard, and then Jimmy Flick's going to throw up a triangle, sub him in the first round. Jimmy Flick is nasty off of his back. He finds submissions from anywhere, and I'm banking on Maness making a mistake here. Maness has been submitted all 3 of his losses, and Jimmy Flick is a guy that can just find submissions from anywhere. So I'm picking Jimmy Flick to get it done. I'm going to say first round triangle choke. Moving up on the card to the featured prelim, we have Tagir Ulanbekov versus Joshua Van. I actually love this fight. I love this fight. My initial, I have an initial pick when I look at a fight, and then I'll start watching some fight tape, especially if I'm super up in the air on it. And then I start kind of making my pick from there. My initial pick was Joshua Van. But then I started watching fight tape, and then I started digging back in the archives. I'm going Tagir Ulanbekov. I'm picking Tagir in this fight. Joshua Van, 10-1, coming off a win over Felipe Boons, I think is how you pronounce it. But getting out-grappled a little bit in that fight against a guy who I think is a much lower-level grappler than Tagir. Before that, beat Kevin Borjas, had to come back. Now, that was primarily a striking match. I don't think we can take too much away from that in this fight. Before that, beat Zagalas Zumagulov, split decision. It was a close fight there, and that was his UFC debut on short notice. Joshua Van definitely has a boxing advantage and a striking advantage overall and has really good stamina. I think Tagir's grappling is going to be too much for him. You look at his recent fights. Submitted Cody Durden. Cody Durden is a savage on the ground. He's hard to submit. He's gritty on the feet, has decent striking. Tagir went out there and was like ragdolling him a bit and looking for submissions throughout the fight. Fight before that, submitted Nate Maness. Finished him with a standing guillotine. Fight before that, lost to Tim Elliott. Tim Elliott is kind of a super wonky style and also is kind of a really good anti-grappler. So I don't think there's a lot of shame in that loss, and that's 2 years ago. And then you look back, I was looking back at Joshua Van's losses, and his one loss is via submission. Now, it was back in 2021, but either way, in that fight, I'm seeing some really bad grappling, and I don't think it's improved that much because he hasn't fought that many grapplers since then. And in his last fight against Felipe, getting taken down, I think if he's getting taken down like that against Felipe in his last fight, I think Tagir will be able to take him down in this fight. And I think ultimately Tagir has really good BJJ, really good transitions on the ground. He has decent enough striking where I think he can hang on the feet with Joshua Van. Not for long. I don't think if this stays standing the entire fight and Joshua Van's just sprawling takedowns, Joshua Van will win. But I just don't. I think Ulanbekov can hang on the feet enough with him where he doesn't get clipped and KO'd. And I think he'll find a way to get a takedown, whether it's from clinch work or some type of scramble. And I think eventually he's going to find a submission. So I'm going to go Tagir Ulanbekov. I'm going to say second round rear naked choke. That seems to be his favorite submission. And that happens to be the one submission that Joshua Van got finished in against a grappler back in 2021. And also he's so young. He's only 22 years old. Tagir has a lot of experience in fighting higher level opposition. Not crazy high level, but higher level opposition. I'm picking Tagir Ulanbekov to win via second round rear naked choke. Moving up on the card to the first fight on the main card, Adam Fugitt versus Josh Quinlan. Look, Fugitt's coming off a loss against Mike Malott. Mike Malott's coming off a loss against Neil Magny. If you lost to Neil Magny in 2023, I can't trust you to get it done. And you lost to Mike Malott, who lost to Neil Magny, I can't trust you to get it done. Fugitt's just not good. He's 35 years old. He's getting outstruck and outgrappled by Mike Malott. The fight before that against Kinoshita, I mean, what does that win even mean? Doesn't really mean much. Lost to Michael Morales. Okay, that's a tough draw. And then you have Josh Quinlan coming off a loss against Danny Barlow. I'm really high on Danny Barlow in his striking. Fight before that, lost to Trey Waters. Okay, Quinlan does have T-Rex arms. So he is at a disadvantage here, a 5-inch reach disadvantage. I think Fugitt's too slow. His striking isn't good enough. I think he's going to try to grapple Quinlan. Quinlan is pretty decently strong and has decent takedown defense and has decent grappling of his own and wades forward with big power shots. Even against Danny Barlow, he had a couple moments where he landed some, I think it was a big left hand. I think Fugitt's going to be forced to try to grapple here, and I don't think he's going to be successful grappling against Josh Quinlan, and I see Quinlan beating him up. I'm picking Quinlan to win via second round KO. I think he beats Fugitt everywhere. I don't think Quinlan's going to be looking for takedowns, but I don't think Fugitt has that like super long range. He doesn't, even though he has a longer reach, he doesn't fight like a Danny Barlow. He doesn't fight like, I'm trying to think of his name, Trey Waters. They both fight really long. Fugitt's kind of throwing more like sloppy hooks, looking slow on the feet, getting outstruck by Mike Malott, getting out grappled by Mike Malott. Well, how am I supposed to pick him? He's 9-4, 35 years old. You know, I just can't pick him. I'm not picking him. The only win in his UFC career is not good. And then he's fighting horrible opposition, 8-2, 4-2 outside the UFC. At least Quinlan's got a win over Jason Witt, who was 19-8. And, you know, he did take PEDs at one point in time and tested positive for that. So I do worry, you know, is his confidence gone since he got off PEDs? I don't know. But I'm picking Quinlan to get it done. I'm picking Quinlan via second round KO, waiting in with a big shot, clipping Fugitt right on the chin and putting him away. I have to pick Josh Quinlan in this one. Moving up on the card, we have Asu Almabaev versus Jose Johnson. Easy pick. Hopefully easy pick. I think this is the easiest pick on the card. I have to go Almabaev. He's really good on the feet, and his grappling is really solid. You look at his last fight against CJ Vergara. CJ Vergara has been out-grappled, but he's a decent grappler. And what impressed me about this fight is Almabaev was finding takedowns in the open space, in the center of the cage. A lot of guys nowadays just rely on cage grappling. Almabaev will chain wrestle. He's good up against the fence, but he's good out in the open as well, with single legs and mixing in trips and throws. And Jose Johnson, in his last fight, was getting ragdolled a bit by Chad Anheliger. The fight before that got ragdolled by Damon Blackshear and got twisted. If you're getting twisted, I don't think you're surviving against Almabaev on the ground. So I see Almabaev finding a sub here. I'm picking Almabaev via first round. I'm going to say first round rear naked choke. He has 9 sub wins. And I don't think Johnson is going to be able to do anything. What is he going to win on the feet? I don't even think he's that good on the feet. He does have a reach advantage. I do think he does have a slight advantage in the striking, but Almabaev closes the distance with big shots, nasty kicks, and he's constantly mixing in the takedown, which is going to make Jose Johnson question on the feet. So I see Asu closing the distance early, finding a takedown early, Johnson trying to scramble out, but probably giving up his back. And so I have to pick Almabaev via submission. I'm picking him via first round rear naked choke. I don't see a way that Jose Johnson wins this fight. Almabaev's really, really solid, even though he hasn't fought the best competition. You know, he's fought CJ Vergara, Ode Osborne. Outside the UFC, he's fighting 3-1, 21-10, 4-0. So it's kind of be a mixed bag outside the UFC. But I think he's one of these guys that hasn't fought the best competition, but he's actually really, really good. And I could see him eventually being a legit top 15 contender in the flyweight division. I'm picking him to get the first round sub over Jose Johnson. Moving up on the card, we have Miles Johns versus Douglas Silva de Andrade. Look, Douglas Silva de Andrade is coming off a win over Cody Stamann. Cody Stamann is like maybe a little bit shittier version of Miles Johns. And I know MMA math doesn't work, but that's not really MMA math. I'm picking Douglas Silva de Andrade is what I'm trying to say here. Miles Johns is a wrestle boxer, mixes in the wrestling, looks to get some control time, but he crouches down with some big right hands and some big power shots. Douglas Silva de Andrade gets hurt, but has a decent chin, is decently durable, has decent striking, has decent takedown defense. He's 38 years old, though. That's what makes me question this pick. He's 38 years old, but coming off a win over Cody Stamann, who's a very similar style of Miles Johns, was able to stuff the takedowns decently well there. Before that, lost to Said Nurmagomedov. Not a whole lot of shame in that. Before, beat Sergey Morozov. So, Miles Johns coming off a win over Cody Gibson. Cody Gibson had some decent success in the clinch against Miles Johns. So, I know I'm kind of breaking these, different fights down. I'm like, looking at this guy, looking at that guy. And I know that's always not the best way, but basically, I think Silva has an advantage on the feet. I think he's more explosive, more dynamic on the feet. I think Miles Johns tries to load up with big power shots, tries to mix in the takedowns. I don't think he's going to have a lot of success here. I'm going to pick Douglas Silva de Andrade to get a decision. But don't be shocked if Johns hurts him in this fight. Don't be shocked if he gets caught. But Andrade recovers well. He got hurt bad against Cody Stamann, I think in the third round. Survived. I mean, it was a picture-perfect punch right on the chin. And survived in that fight. And he's shown decent durability throughout the course of his career. He's been around forever. I know he's 38, which usually I always go with a younger guy. But in this fight, I'm picking Douglas Silva de Andrade to win via decision. Moving up on the card, Lucas Almeida versus Timmy Cuamba, I think is how you pronounce it. This is an easy... Why is this a featured fight? What are we doing here? Why is this a featured fight? I'm picking Cuamba. I'm picking him via decision. I could see Cuamba KOing him, but he hasn't shown enough for me just yet to say that. Fought Balaji Oki on short notice and lost me a split decision. It was a close fight. Lucas Almeida got absolutely starched by Feely. Before that, lost to Pat Sabatini. Almeida is primarily a striker who has no grappling. Pat Sabatini took him down and ragdolled him to the ground. So, Cuamba has decent striking, pretty fast, pretty athletic, has okay grappling as well. Mixes in the wrestling quite a bit. Had some decent exchanges in the Balaji Oki fight. He's fighting low-level opposition outside the UFC 7-2, 8-2, 3-1, 4-5, which was 5 fights ago, but super active. I mean, when you go back 5 fights, that's less than 2 years ago for Cuamba. Lucas Almeida fought 5 months ago, 11 months ago. Then you're looking at 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Come off Dana White's Contender Series. Not really come off Dana White's Contender Series, but he lost to Daniel Zellhuber on Dana White's Contender Series, won a fight, and then came in against Michael Trezano where he got a KO there. But since then has been underperforming. I think Cuamba will be decent enough on the feet. I think he'll mix in the takedowns. I think Almeida's kind of slowing down. He's taking a lot of damage. He's 33 years old, where Cuamba's 25. And typically I do pick the younger fighters. So for this fight, I mean, look at the way Feely clubbed him and beat the dog shit out of him in that last fight. Look at the way Pat Sabatini ragged out into the ground and subbed him. How could you possibly pick Lucas Almeida? I can't. I certainly can't. So I'm going Timmy Cuamba via decision. I could see him getting a finish, but he doesn't have like nuclear power. So I'm not going to pick him to go out there and get a KO. I'm picking Timmy Cuamba via decision. Moving up on the card, the co-main event, Ikram Aliskerov versus Anthony Trócoli. Anthony Trócoli was supposed to fight maybe a week or two ago against Umar Sy. Pulled out of that fight. I forgot what reason. This is a guy who was on Dana White's Contender Series and lost or won and tested positive and then went out and won like one fight, and now he's coming back to the UFC. He's coming in on short notice against Ikram Aliskerov, but he does have a training camp considering he was just supposed to fight not that long ago. I mean, is this really a tough pick? Ikram Aliskerov is going to bulldoze this guy. I watched his last fight. His last fight was from 2.5 years ago. He fought some dude which looked like at the Brazilian State Fair. It wasn't the Kentucky State Fair. And it was some like overweight, a guy with a worse body than me. And he took him down and choked him out. So I don't think he's going to be able to do that to Ikram. Ikram, 15-1, only losses to Khamzat Chimaev. Has shown nasty power in his hands. Brutalized Warlley Alves. Brutalized Phil Halls. And I know there aren't the most elite of the elite names. But Anthony Trócoli, is he an elite name? No, absolutely not. I think Aliskerov can out-grapple him. I think Aliskerov can outstrike with him. Outstrike him. I think Aliskerov's better everywhere. Trócoli's coming in as a sacrificial lamb from a 2.5-year layoff against bums. I mean, look at his overall. Look at the guys he's fighting. The last guy he fought was 7-1. The guy before that on Dana White's Contender Series was 6-0, and that was 5 years ago. So 2 fights in 5 years. Think about it. The guy, what was it? Cuamba? I think it was Cuamba, right? 5 fights. You go back 5 fights. It was like a year and 10 months. You go back 1 fight ago, 2 fights ago. It was 4 years, 11 months ago, 5 years. He's inactive. He's 33 years old. He hasn't fought really good competition. I mean, these guys he's fighting 2-6. 3 fights ago, a guy who's 2-6. Oh my God, that was 6 years ago almost, 5.5 years. That's crazy. I'm not picking this guy. This guy is a total scrub. He would have to get a fluke KO win. He's not out-grappling Aliskerov. He's not out-striking Aliskerov. He's going to get brutally chinned. I'm picking Aliskerov via first-round KO. And Aliskerov's super dynamic on the feet. Look at that flying knee he landed on Warlley Alves. And I know Warlley Alves is not that good. But at the end of the day, Warlley Alves probably beats Trócoli. Wouldn't shock me if Warlley Alves did. So I'm picking Aliskerov to run through him and win in the co-main event via first-round KO. Highlight reel KO. Moving up on the card, we have Alex Perez versus Tatsuro Taira. This is actually a main event to kind of struggle with a little bit because I see a path to victory for both guys. Perez, everyone counted him out in his last fight against Matheus Nicolau. Main event at the Apex. He's main event at the Apex again. Brutally KO'd him. Took no damage. Now he's stepping in on, not stepping in, but like a month and a half turnaround and fighting Tatsuro Taira. And Taira hasn't fought very good opposition. Carlos Fernandes. Okay, he finished him. Out-grappled and beat him up on the ground. Before that, Edgar Chairez almost got finished in the 3rd round via guillotine. A lot of people don't remember that. Fight before that, Jesus Aguilar. Fight before that, CJ Vergara. Fight before that, Carlos Candelario. So Taira's getting a massive jump up the division, massive jump up in competition. And Perez has decent anti-wrestling. I mean, this last loss was against Muhammad Makayev. Some people thought he won that fight. He was stuffing some takedowns. He did get taken down, controlled a little bit. Fights before that, I mean, Pantoja, losing the submission against Pantoja. No shame in that. Fight before that, lost to Davison Figueiredo in a title fight. He's been inactive, but he came back, got a win against Nicolau. I could see him stuffing the takedowns. And he's only 32 years old. If he stuffs the takedowns, I think he has an advantage on the feet. Taira is getting better with his hands and his overall striking. But I don't think he can hang on the feet for long with Alex Perez. He'll be all right, but he has to at least have the threat of the takedown. If Taira starts shooting takedowns and Perez is just sprawling, and then Perez starts to get his confidence that he's not getting taken down, it's over for Taira. But Taira is so he's like a flyweight Chase Hooper. He's kind of squirmy and just gritty on the ground, and he finds positions, and his transitions and his BJJ is just so good, and his submissions are unbelievable. I'm going to go Tatsuro Taira. This may be the second time I get a Alex Perez main event prediction wrong, but I think he's going to find the grappling some way, somehow. Muhammad Makayev's finding it. I don't think Muhammad Makayev is like the best offensive wrestler ever. I think Taira's just as good, maybe. I don't know. It's hard to say just yet because he hasn't fought decent opposition. I think he'll find grappling exchanges in this fight, and I think ultimately Perez is going to make a mistake and end up getting subbed. I know he's only getting subbed by like elite guys recently. I mean, not even recently because he's been so inactive. I mean, you go back 5 fights ago, 4 years ago. But this is a tough fight. If it stays on the feet, Perez will win. If you get a lot of grappling exchanges, Taira will find a submission, and that's what I'm banking on. I'm banking on Taira to get in low on the legs, and maybe Perez is kind of stuffing it and then tries to scramble out and trips, and then Taira snatches up his back in transition and creates a scramble similar to how Pantoja creates a scramble. And in all that chaos, he then jumps on your back or finds an advantageous position in the grappling. And the way Taira flows on the ground is incredible, and I think he's getting better with the striking. I think he's getting better overall. These young guys, you see them fight to fight, get better and better and better, where some of these guys like Perez, who's arguably already in his prime at 32 years old, you see him kind of stagnating a bit. So I'm going to pick Taira to get it done and prove himself as a contender in the flyweight division. I'm going to say second round submission. I'm going to say he finds a guillotine in the second round. I'm going to say he gets a takedown, like a half a takedown. Perez gets down to like a knee, starts to scramble back to his feet. Taira somehow gets like a front headlock position in like a weird scramble and finds a guillotine. That's what I'm predicting for this fight in the second round. Taira's just really, really good on the ground, and Perez, that's kind of his weakness. If he can't stuff the takedown, his jiu-jitsu isn't that great. So I think Taira will find a way to get Alex Perez to the ground and find the submission. But ultimately, it's a very tough fight to pick. I'm wondering what Tapology has. 80% is picking Taira. That makes me even question my pick even more, the fact that the masses are in agreement. But I think Taira will find a sub, but it really should be closer to 50-50 in my opinion for Tapology picks. So it's hard to say. He's 15-0, undefeated, bunch of subs on his record. He gets it done against Perez. He finds a submission in a scramble, whether it's second, third round. But I do wonder if it goes 5 rounds. That favors Perez, I think. Not that Perez has been 5 rounds recently, but he's been 3 hard rounds recently, and Taira's never been 5 rounds. So this is a tricky fight to pick, but overall, Taira has better BJJ, and I think he's so slick on the ground. I have to pick him in this fight to get it done. I'm picking him to win via second round guillotine. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And thank you so much for watching.